I don't want to do what a lot of them want to do, and if I want to do something, I'll be the best and I'll get a job at it because that's what I want to do.
I should have looked at that before. Do you recognize him? Barely. The hair may be toned down, but not the strong opinions. That, my friends, was Rick Mercer. Public humiliation, my friend. Barely in his teens and already commanding an audience. Tomorrow night, though, the cheeky and witty host of the Rick Mercer Report is calling it a day. And as he prepared to step down from his beloved soapbox, we got a chance to ask him a few questions.
I don't know. The phone rang, a horn blew. They said I won a free cruise.
Rick Mercer has a knack for explaining Canada to Canadians.
Come on.
It's that honest take that's made viewers tune in week after week.
That's one.
First on 22 Minutes.
Good evening.
And for the last 15 seasons on the Rick Mercer Report.
Good evening. I'm Rick Mercer. This is the Mercer Report. Nick, is it?
Absolutely.
How are you, Nick? Good
Not
to see
too
you.
bad.
He's traveled the country so often, he's practically our own personal tour guide. But his rants in that well-known alley became his very own color commentary on just about anything.
It is one thing to tip your hat to a culture that you were visiting, but the Trudeaus, they dove into the deep end of the Ganges. They did not come up for air. Well, that is the show for this week.
But his conversation with Canada comes to an end tomorrow, when the Rick Mercer Report signs off for the last time.
Hello?
Nice to see you.
I joined him on set a few days ago for one last chat. You're feeling how about the last show?
I feel a whole bunch of things. You know, it's been a real eye-opener because the last show is a celebration of everything we've done for 15 years. So that means we're going back and we're looking at interviews and clips and things we've done over 15 years that, you know, I just haven't thought of in a very long time. And seeing the scope of them put together makes me feel really good. You know, we created a reel at the beginning of all the pieces. I say, here I am in, you know, Moncton, New Brunswick. Here I am, and we cut all those together. And there's like an hour of just me saying place names in Canada.
So is that the whole special?
No, we couldn't just run that. But it's over 500 locations, 500 unique locations that we've visited.
How did you get to that point where you said, I want to go to all these weird places that nobody's heard of and nobody goes to? What made you do that in the first place?
That was right off the start. That was part of the idea for the show. You know, I was on This Hour's 22 Minutes for 8 years, and I got to do a bit of traveling on that show, and I always loved that, and I always wanted to go to Nunavut, and there was always a reason not to go to Nunavut, and oh no, it's too expensive, or you know, it's this or it's that, and so when I got this show, one of the very first places we went to was Nunavut. And there was a suggestion that, you know, you're opening the show, it's early in its tenure, you know, the GTA has millions and millions of people, you should shoot in the GTA. And we stuck to our guns, we said, no, we're going to Nunavut. And I think people responded to that. You know, people have an innate interest in the country, they want to travel the country, they can't always do that, but they get to live vicariously through the show.
And through you.
Yeah.
What about those travels surprised you the most? Because I have a similar job where I get to go places where people wouldn't get to go and see things people wouldn't get to see. What surprised you about some of that?
One of the great things that happened to me when we started, I would show up in a town and a kid would see me and they would know me from television and they'd say like, what are you doing here? Because that's the way kids feel about their town, no matter where what are you doing here? And then like in the second year, I was in the interior of British Columbia in a small town and this kid said, I knew you'd show up eventually. And I thought, we've done it, we've broken through. That's the show I want. Yeah. And that's probably what I'm the most proud of, really, yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about Newfoundland because there is, I mean, obviously you love it. It's a special place for you. But it does seem to be a place that has a lot of talent, musicians, comedians. Why do you think that is?
Well, we don't shut up is one of them. We don't shut up.
Fair.
We like to talk. We have lots of opinions. But there's certainly a lot of us. You know, Tom is there who now hosts Q, and then, you know, and Critch is there from 22 Minutes. And
Speaking of Critch, he sent you a little message.
He did not.
Yes, he did.
When I was in high school, all of St. John's was raving about Rick Mercer's one-man show, Show Me the Button, I'll Push It, or Charles Lynch Must Die. It was sold out, but I volunteered to tear tickets so I could go see it. And that was in 1991. And Rick, I've been watching your rant ever since. I know you're stepping away, but whenever you feel the need to pace and shout about Ottawa, you're welcome back here at your old alma mater. I'll keep the desk warm for you. Congratulations from all of us here at 22 Minutes. Beers on me at the Ship Pub this summer.
That's very nice.
Where's the Ship Pub? Is everyone going to be there this summer?
Oh, yeah, pretty much.
Should I send you with bodyguards?
It's right across the street from the LSPO Hall where I did that show, and where Critch, took tickets.
The thing that you and I have in common is politics, a love of politics, I think, yes? And you took, I don't know if I can say take the piss out of someone, but that's what you were doing most of the time.
Yeah.
Did you ever do it and thought that you stepped over a line, or someone got angry? Certainly lots of people got angry with you, and then you thought maybe that was too much.
There were certainly times. I've always found that cabinet ministers and prime ministers and premiers, people who are in that business, they have a very thick skin.
Yes.
They actually, it doesn't bother them. It bothers the people around them because, as you know, in Ottawa, every cabinet minister has a number of young people working with them, and those young people think that that cabinet minister is the greatest gift to democracy since Nelson Mandela. And they are convinced. It's only a matter of time until the entire world sees what a great man or woman that person is. And so they're very sensitive, those people are.
Was there anyone that wouldn't play ball that surprised, like you thought, oh, this would help you if you just went on? I mean,
you know, over the years, I kind of backed away from it because I decided I didn't want to do that as much anymore. But over the years, we had tremendous access. There was, I remember when Michael Ignatieff said he couldn't come on the show, but then he was interested in seeing samples of my work. Because he was like, 22 what?
and did you send them?
Well, no, we were like, I guess we could dig up samples. I suppose it's on the CBC.
That sums up a lot there.
Yeah. He eventually came on the show, of course.
And how do you feel about political satire? Because I think about when you started 15 years ago, there weren't a million people doing that at that time, not 15 years ago.
No.
And there are now. I think
there's a ton now. And when we started 22 Minutes, it was groundbreaking in a lot of ways. I hate to say that because it sounds like I was groundbreaking.
No, it
but
was.
In this building,
For sure.
people were freaking out because people were saying they look like a news show. They can't look like a news show. People are thinking it's the news, and where did they get that news footage? And some very powerful people let us have that news footage. But there was also very powerful people who were like, this is crossing a line. They cannot be playing with news footage. And there was, so it was groundbreaking. It was exciting. And occasionally we did things that, they became the story themselves. When I launched the Stockwell Day petition for Stockwell Day to change his name to Doris Day.
Now, the petition simply states, we demand that the Government of Canada force Stockwell Day to change his first name to Doris.
The week before I decided to do that, we realized This Hour's 22 Minutes didn't have a website or a domain name. Like, it was that long ago. TV shows didn't have websites. So we're like, well, we'll create one of these new fancy websites we're hearing about. And it became a real story inside of an election. That was pretty exciting.
I don't know if you have a favorite politician. Like, is that possible? I don't know.
I mentioned Nelson Mandela.
Yes, okay.
He was a pretty good one.
All right, maybe this guy. Hang on.
Well, the Northern Lights have seen strange sights, but the strangest they ever did see, with the day Bob Ray with Rick Mercer did play on the shores of Lake Killarney. Oh, it was pretty rough to see them both in the buff, Rick Mercer with Bob at his side. But if truth be told, they're both pretty old, and they didn't have much to hide.
That's a long
Rick,
poem.
What a life we've had together. Oh, I know you haven't seen me in quite a while because, I've returned to my obscurity, which has been so richly deserved, only illuminated occasionally by a visit in the airport or somewhere where a guy will come up to me and say, Bob, nice ass. Thank you, Rick. And thank you, Canada, for watching.
I'd also like to thank you because I had to interview him knowing what his ass looked like. He was a good sport.
He was a good sport. He was a good sport that day.
Yeah.
To get naked and jump in a lake. And at the time, he was running for the leadership of the Liberal Party. Yeah. So he had to make a call right there. And he was one of the few people that of that level that I spent time with that came completely alone. There was
No entourage.
There was no entourage. No one to say, no, you are not doing that. He was like, yeah, I'll do it. It's because we didn't catch any fish.
Oh, so you had to do something.
We had to do something.
Oh,
Otherwise, people would have looked at us and said, wow, those guys are morons. They're
Yeah.
up there in northern Ontario in this beautiful, pristine wilderness. They can't catch a fish.
Too bad we didn't catch any fish.
I know, but that's not what it's about, Bob.
No, what is it? Tell me what it's about.
It's about
What
the
is
memories,
fishing?
Bob.
Oh, the memories.
And we
Okay.
still have to get that one memorable moment.
I have an idea.
Let's talk about the rants. That's Rick Mercer rehearsing his final rant in Graffiti Alley. We were able to follow him while he prepared.
Is the sun killing
I
you?
was going to say, yeah, can you just take a half a step
This
back?
is one of the challenges of shooting in the alley. See, the sun shifts. People have no idea how hard we got it. Now we have to step into a, there we go.
Let's talk about the rants. So I've heard the story. These are the things you write yourself in your office.
Yep.
You decide what you want to talk about.
Sure, oh, absolutely.
And how did they evolve over the 15 years?
My opinion has certainly evolved.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're more personal now.
Yeah.
I realized over the last number of years that I didn't always have to be funny. I think when I started, they were commentary, but I was a little more focused on being clever. And I realized that wasn't necessarily what was important. And I never lost track of the fact that it was a huge privilege to be able to do, because think of it, we're all, so many Canadians rant and have an opinion. To get to do it on national television every single week, it's a gift. That's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me in my career, that I get to do that. And in many ways, I view the whole show as wrapped around that moment.
Do you memorize it? I always wondered that.
Oh yeah, I always memorize the
yeah.
rants. Yeah, there's no teleprompter.
Do you do it once?
I have done it once on occasion, but I often have to do it 15, 20 times.
No.
Well, it's an alley, and the alley is also a functioning alley. Delivery trucks go through there, people take shortcuts through there. Art students are taking photos nonstop now because of the artwork that's there. And then there's other trade that goes on in alleys. There's, you have to dodge dead rats. And my cameraman, Don Spence, is going backwards.
Yes, no, that's not fun.
And there's ice, and he trips and falls. I mean, there's a lot of things that can go wrong.
Those rants, though, I think you said they were what you built the show around. I think so, too. They were the parts that people tuned in for, to see what you had to say in a given week. And there were some that were very, very powerful, that really, the voting one resonated really deeply at a moment where people needed maybe to hear that.
It is the conventional wisdom of all political parties that young people will not vote. And the parties, they like it that way. It's why your tuition keeps going up.
The bullying against gay kids.
But you want to say to these kids who are being bullied, you know what? You're right. These are not the best days of your life. In fact, these are probably the worst. But after this, they get better. And then, believe it or not, they get great. Trust me, I'm one of the smartest guys I know.
It turned into a news story. I mean, that was the power of those moments and your voice. Do you grasp that?
Occasionally, that one of the rants has really resonated. And I know that they're not all going to resonate like that. No. But occasionally, they do resonate. I mean, the anti-bullying rant, it traveled all around the world.
Yeah.
Someone sent me an article and they said, this man in Canada has this to say. Why he's walking around in that alley, we have no idea. Like, they were like, what is he doing? And occasionally I got to rant about something that wasn't in the media at all.
Yeah.
I just thought that maybe people should know about.
3 years ago, the Harper government went to court in a fight with Canadian veterans.
My friend Paul Franklin, has no legs because he lost his legs in Afghanistan, and he was constantly having to prove to Veterans Affairs that he still had no legs.
Yes.
Now, I knew
like
this.
other people too.
Yeah, and I knew this about him because he would tell me about it, and then I would say, can I do something about this? He would say no, because soldiers don't complain. So you're just going to suck it up? Yep, that's just the way it is. And then eventually he said, yeah, okay, you can. The fourth time he had to prove his legs hadn't grown back.
So the next time you bump into an MP and they're telling you how much this government does for veterans, don't take them at their word. Tell them to prove it.
And so I got to rant about that, and then it became a story.
public policy issue,
And it
yeah,
became a
yeah.
public policy issue. And, you know, and the minister stood up and said, we're going to fix this.
Yeah.
So now he only has to prove that his legs haven't grown back every 2 years.
Oh, lovely.
Used to be every year. So now he's got, so that's progress.
That's change.
Change you can believe in.
But you do,
Yeah.
but we're laughing about it. But those were powerful moments for
Well-
the country. I really do think that.
Well, thank you very much. You know, there's been so many rants, and I like to think that some of them resonated,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I feel pretty good about that.
Are you sad at all?
I'm sad, sure. I'm also excited. You know, I would never complain about the show because, you know, look at this. Like, if you want a career in show business or comedy, this is what you want your entire life. When you're a kid, you want a studio like this with your set and these cameras. I mean,
Made
this
for
is,
you, yeah.
this is as good as it gets. And the fact that we've gotten 15 years is tremendous. And I would never complain about it, but it is all encompassing.
Sure.
It takes up a lot of time. And I'm excited about doing other things. I don't know what they are yet, but I'm excited about that.
I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
And I know you won't go away.
No, where am I going? I'm not retiring.
No.
You know, people keep saying, happy retirement. I'm like, oh, I never said I was retiring.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Cheers. Thank you.
Okay.